Hi friends, my name is Andrey Derkach and I'm co-convener for YWAM Eastern Europe. It's a big honor to me to share word with you and my thoughts about what God is doing in our days. A couple years ago, one of pastor that I knew say these words. He said, God don't need waves, he want stability. And I could understand what he mean and probably even could agree with him. But my YWAM identity not allowed me to agree with this kind of words against waves. And I turn on my Bible and start to study what scripture is talking about waves. I will not have time now to share with you all what I discover. I think each of us could do this research. One of the scripture that actually took my attention was first chapter of book of Revelation. You remember the scripture. John was in the island Patmos and he met with Jesus there. And it was not regular meeting with the old friend, because when John saw Jesus, he fell down on his face. What did John see there? He saw holiness, he saw greatness, he saw majesty that Jesus have. Verse that actually took my attention was the verse that say that his voice was like a sound of many waters. For many years I was thinking that this scripture comparing Jesus' voice with the sound of waterfalls. But actually, you know, in the Patmos island there is no big waterfalls, but there is Mediterranean Sea around it with the huge waves. When we think about this greatness and majesty that John discovered in Jesus, we understand that it's talking us about his sovereign right. Right to do what he wants, where he wants, through who he wants. I like quote by C.S. Lewis about this. He say, "He is not domestic lion. He is wild." And when God is speaking, there is waves coming. Our religious structure would like that God will play by our rules. But you know, the rules is His and the order is His. There is order, but it's quite different than our order. For example, in most of our culture, it's not polite to, if you come to people who have conversation, it's not polite just immediately start to talk. You need to wait until people will stop talking. We train that if people talking, then you wait until first person will stop to talk and then second can start. But when we're reading in the 1 Corinthians 14, 29, 33, Paul is giving order to prophets how they need prophesy in the church. And he say when the first prophet receive word and he's speaking, and then if second prophet will receive word, the first need to be quiet. Interesting. His order is quite different than our order. In the history, God is working through waves. And I, not specialist in wave, but because of Wikipedia, we all have good access to the knowledge in our days. And I just little bit research which kind of waves exist. And I discovered that there is mainly three types of waves. First type is the regular waves. And regular waves as coming, they are and regular waves appearing in the sea or ocean when the wind is flowing in the same direction for quite long time. And this wind creates the movement. What is about? In our spiritual life we need routine, spiritual disciplines. This is why we need to have quiet time, this is why we need to go to church every Sunday, this is why we need to run DTSs. Because the routine creates movement. The second type of the wave is the tsunami wave. And the tsunamis, they are appearing like result of earthquake. When the earthquake happening, then the big mass of water released by moving of the earth. And this water creating huge wave, then when this wave reaching coastline, and this wave is high like 40 meters and moving with the speed of 200 kilometers an hour and bring huge transformation to coastline. We like spiritual tsunamis. But you know, spiritual tsunami happening in the God time. We could see that it was in 1st century, it was tsunami. Then it was 500 years ago on the day of Reformation, it was tsunami that brought transformation. Then in the beginning of 20th century, it was a tsunami, big revival. Then in the 60s, it was revival of Jesus people. Then in the 90s, it was revival. We like to see this kind of tsunami, but we need to understand that this kind movement of God happening by His order, it's happening by His calendar, by His plan, sovereign plan. We need to welcome it, but we couldn't really count on it. The third type of wave for a long time was not accepted by the science world. Only in 1995 they started to do researches in this sphere, and actually they discover that this wave exists. And you could find more information about them. They call differently. I will use the name monster wave. This wave appearing in the ocean from nowhere, and it's not a result of earthquake. They're still researching this wave, but the suggestion that science have now for appearance of these waves, it's saying that basically there is one mainstream of the waves that going this direction, and then wind start to blow on very short distance on another direction and create second vector of the waves. And when they reach each other, they not break each other, but they start to build one another and create a huge wave that could be 30-40 meters high. And this wave could bring huge transformation. The understanding of this monster wave is interesting for us because it gives us key to understand how God is working in history. It gives us key to understand the dynamic of the movement. We knew that God is working through unity, but again, our unity is quite different from God's unity. We are mostly like to have unity of similarity, but His unity is unity of diversity. In YWAM we are so different. We have different gifts, we have different callings, we have different, sometimes even different goals and different theology. We have different culture and different nationalities. But one thing that I want to mention specifically is that we have different generations. And we need to learn how to work in this unity of diversity to create wave that God wants that we will be. 2 years ago, on one of the YWAM Russia leadership gathering, God spoke to me and He told me, Andrey, not be a wave breaker. These words actually quite surprised me because I never count myself like wave breaker. You know what wave breakers are. You know, in the coastline and ocean, they build this big concrete construction to protect coastline from the waves. I never count myself wave breaker. Usually, most of the time I was thinking about myself like a wave. But God spoke what He spoke. And I need to take attention to these words. It's changed my approach and it changed my strategy specifically towards young leaders in our mission. I believe that God is calling us to look for young Davids. He's calling us to look for new Pauls, young Timothy, Mark. He wants that we will use our shoulders and our back not like a wall that will keep them from the future, but like a step that will help them to go further than we are. Let's build a new wave together with a new generation. God bless you. Bye-bye.